When it comes to training legs while running, most people struggle with always running on heavy legs, not knowing which exercises to do, and how to transition their leg training throughout a 16-week prep. And after going to High Rocks Worlds, 4 different High Rocks comps, and a 301 marathon prep, these are the strategies that I use myself and with all the people I work with to maintain strength, still train legs, and push the miles week after week. Let's get into it.
Good morning. As we go through today what your leg training should look like in your half and your full marathon race prep, I want to focus on one thing before we get into the nitty-gritty and all the details and nuance of training legs. And that is dependent on what your goals are in your training. If you're an elite runner and your goal is just to strength train 1 to 2 times a week to make sure that your joints are healthy, you're rehabbing correctly, and you're healthy for the miles, that's going to be completely different than how you might strength train. If your goal is to maintain muscle mass, if you're someone that's coming from a strength background and just getting into running, those are going to be 2 different profiles. And in this video, we're going to be talking about people that are looking to maintain their muscle mass and somewhat maintain their leg strength as they go through a marathon prep for true hybrid training. So with that being said, your training should go through seasons. So if you are training for a half marathon right now or a full marathon like I am currently training for the St. Louis Marathon, as your mileage increases, your strength work is going to have to take a step back, but we can do things to allow us to maintain our strength in that process with regard to like how much our weekly volume is looking like, what types of exercises we're doing, and how heavy we're going. And the biggest mistakes that I see people make, there are 4 to 5 of them. The first one is doing their really hard leg strength training the day before their quality run sessions. So whenever you do really hard leg strength training, there's going to be a thing that follows that called DOMS, and you've probably heard of it. It's delayed onset muscle soreness, and this is going to be your muscles breaking down. If your goal is to get faster and you're training for a race, if you're training legs really hard the day before you do tempo, interval, or maybe even your long runs, these are your key run sessions, you're not going to get as much out of them. Yes, you can do it, and yes, you can run on tired or broken down legs, but that is going to affect how much you get out of your running session. So there is a better way to sequence these things. And the second biggest mistake that I see people making is training till failure way too often in prep, because they are trained in their brain to think that I have to train till failure if I want to hold on to or build muscle, and that's truly just not the case. We want to train heavy. That way we're holding on to our muscle mass and somewhat holding on to our strength in the prep, but we don't have to train till failure. And we're going to talk about using RIR, or reps in reserve, in your training throughout the video. Number 3, and I do this sometimes, or I had done this in the past, and it always comes to haunt me, but that's introducing new exercises too often in your programming, which is going to cause you to be more sore, or introducing a lot of eccentric movements that are slow on the way down, and this is going to be what really leads to DOM. So we're going to talk about the difference between a concentric and doing fast movements and using bar speed versus always doing eccentrics, which are what are going to be the main driver to you being sore after your workout. Lastly, and probably the most important thing, is as you're getting closer to your race, I'm talking 4 to 8 weeks out, people still trying to PR their leg strength and training the exact same way that they did in week 16 weeks out from their race itself, and training the exact same way when they're 6 to 8 weeks out. Your leg training has to change, and you can still manipulate it in a way that you hold on to your strength. That way when the race is over and you come back to strength, you're not spending a lot of time building it back again. And we're going to talk about all of these things today. But on the record today, we have a 50-minute easy run. So on that run, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to structure your week, and we will go through what hard days are, what easy days are, and the way to place these around each other.
The first thing that I want you to think about when it comes to your leg strength training and your running is what days are hard and what days are easy. And you have to understand what makes a session hard, okay? And we're talking about leg strength training today specifically. So your leg strength training is going to be considered a hard session. Outside of that, you have your quality runs. So this would be like your interval, your tempo, your threshold, and your progression work. These are all going to be considered hard sessions as well. Your easy sessions, these are going to be all your aerobic sessions that allow you to get your mileage in and for you to recover in between your hard days. So the way that I like to think about it is going back and forth, usually from hard to easy days in your week. And if you're newer, you can structure less hard days and more easy days in between your hard days. So it depends. If you train 2 times a day, like right now I train 2 times a day, 3 times a week. All the other days are once a day, but my 2 times a day, those are my hard days. And that's when I'm stacking my strength training, my leg strength training with my quality sessions. So these will be my tempo runs, like I said, hilly runs, interval workouts, or long runs. And right now, I do full body strength training, so I spread my leg volume out throughout the week instead of having one dedicated leg day. This allows me to recover well. And when we get to the gym, I'll take you through my 3 full body days that I'm doing right now and how I choose my exercises for my legs. The main idea is that if we stack our heavy stress on the same day, that allows the next day to be a full recovery day, actually easy. Because whenever your easy days turn into kind of easy, a little bit harder than easy, that's whenever your recovery starts to suffer and you notice you're tired all the time, you're kind of plateauing, you're not really getting better, even though you're pressing the miles. And that's a big lesson I had to learn myself.
Like it's not being like, okay, well this session was terrible, so I shouldn't have trained at all. Because that's what even the after fact they can go into that. I'm like, well, see, I probably shouldn't have trained it.
Ended up being a lot colder than I thought it was gonna be. But 6 miles is done, and like I said, now that you understand how I structure the days, now it is important to understand what movements to do and how to divide the movements up throughout the week. So right now, if you're someone that's doing a dedicated leg day, I'm going to show you how I do full body strength, and I spread my leg volume out over the course of a week instead of doing it all on one day and making me super sore the next 2. I spread it out across the week. So have some mobility to do at the gym. So I'm gonna go to the gym and explain to you the 3 days that I do and break down which leg movements I'm doing and how often I change the leg movements I'm doing and how I progress them through a 16-week block. So when it comes to strength training specifically, I do 3 sessions a week usually. The first session of the week is always on Monday, and this session is going to exist by itself. I'll actually just pop it up here, what I do. This is gonna be front squat focused, okay? So the only leg movement I'm doing on this day is a front squat. If you do, let's say 1 leg day a week, and you do 12 sets total in this workout, you're still getting the exact same amount of volume lifting this way from full body strength, except you're doing your leg movements spread out over the week instead of all on one day. This has worked wonders for me because 1, it takes your legs through a range of motion more often. You're not completely annihilating, you're just stimulating your legs, and it allows for more recovery. How I build all of my full body workouts is 3 main strength movements, and I add in my accessories based on what needs work and what feels tight around my running. Day number 2 of the week, this is going to be the hinging pattern. So I usually use a trap bar on this day, and once again, I'm keeping the reps low. So 3 to 5 reps per set, usually leaving about 1 to 2 reps in reserve. That will be my 1 leg movement for that day. But the main thing about the trap bar is I'm wanting to move the weight fast up, and I'm not really controlling the eccentric down, because you remember what I talked about earlier, the eccentrics, the slow movements on the way down, that's usually what's gonna cause soreness. So I'm still wanting to move the weight fast, provide enough of a stimulus for my central nervous system and my muscles, but then I'm letting the weight drop fairly fast. And I'll pop up a video to show you how I do these. This is gonna be the 3rd day of the week. Usually this day ends up being on a Friday. And the idea of this day for leg movements is usually I'm going to do a single leg movement. Now this could be like curtsy lunges with a landmine. This can be a contralateral load focused split squat, and I'll pop these up so you can see them. And a lot of times I'm pairing these with low volume plyometrics. If you haven't added low volume plyometrics to your training, I'm telling you, this makes the pop off the ground way better as a runner. It makes you more efficient. It costs less energy per stride. I promise you'll get faster. And I only do these once a week right now, by the way, in prep. And that is the 3 main full body strength movements I'm doing. I'm also going to pop up an example of how I progress the weight and reps again over the course of this 16 weeks on the screen for you, so you can see how that looks different from all the way from week 1 all the way to week 16. Now for your accessories, one of the things that I think most people skip in their leg strength training when it comes to running is hip mobility. And when I say hip mobility, I'm not just talking about like the shit that I'm doing right now, like just strengthening or lengthening your hip flexors. I'm talking about working on your hip strength at length and through different ranges of motion. So like some of my favorite things to add in at the end of workouts are a couple sets of things like Cossack squats, moving laterally, not just forward and back. Adding in things like your GHR fallbacks or hip flexor fallbacks with a dumbbell on the ground to strengthen your hip flexors at length. Copenhagen planks are great for the inside of your hip, strengthening the adductors. And then, or really any single leg movements that load the glute medius, the outside of your hip here, that's gonna help a ton with knee strength and knee health as well, because the stronger that your hips are, when your foot lands and hits the ground, your knees aren't gonna shift back and forth like cave in or out. It's gonna keep everything in line. So hip mobility, think about hip mobility as how can I make my hips stronger through all ranges of motion. Last thing that I wanna go through with you is how you can actually structure your week based if you train twice a day, like I do 3 times a week, or if you even just train once a day, how to make your days hard and easy and how to separate them in your week, and I'll meet you at the whiteboard from there. So hopefully that helps, and I'll see you back at the whiteboard. All right, before we get into how to split up your week based on if you train once a day or twice a day, you have to understand what causes DOMs or what causes the soreness in your legs to begin with from lifting. And there's really gonna be 2 main things that I like to focus on where I understand when I'm gonna be sore from my lifting. Am I introducing new exercises into my routine? So if you haven't barbell back squatted in, let's say 3 months, and you go to barbell back squat, your legs are gonna be sore. You're introducing a new exercise, it's a new stimulus, they're gonna be sore. So what I like to think about is keeping the same compound movements for 8-week blocks usually in my training. So I'll use the same compounds from week 1 through 8. And if I switch at week 8, and then I keep the same compound movements from week 8 through 16 of my prep. There's no point introducing anything new. The only time I'm introducing new movements is for my accessories. And these are gonna be the things that support like my joint health, my calf strength, my hip mobility, things of that nature, but compounds stay the same. Secondly is gonna be your eccentrics, slow eccentrics. Understand that. I can't explain how much that does make a difference if you can't understand that. So for instance, if we're doing an RDL and we're going really slow on the way down on an RDL on our hamstrings, we're putting load on them as they lengthen. This is gonna be a slow eccentric. This makes you extremely sore. Now, the other side of this, if we do a trap bar deadlift where the hamstrings are already in a lengthened position, but we explode up and we don't control the way down, the hamstrings are contracting fast, but then you're just letting the weight drop. So that's not gonna cause as much soreness on that same muscle group. This is why I like using trap bar deadlifts instead of things like a slow RDL when I'm in a running block. Now, if I'm in an off season, I'll use RDLs and I'll use barbell deadlifts and really hit those slow eccentrics so that way I can work on building muscle. But in a race prep, I'm focused on concentric movements, fast movements, and things that are gonna help me run faster and maintain muscle in that process. So now let's look at how your weekly structure should look. All right, so if you are training 1 time a day, this is gonna be the weekly structure that I would recommend with full body strength training. And there is gonna be one caveat, there's gonna be an optional double training day, even though I am saying 1 time training day, but I'll explain as we go. You'll see right off the bat, I have the days labeled as hard, and this is gonna make it way easier for you to visually understand. But every time you have leg strength training or a quality run, this is gonna be considered a hard day. Your easy days are in between for you to recover from these harder sessions, okay? So the first day that I have on this would be full body strength training. Your leg movement that you're gonna do on this day is gonna be front squat, okay? And I wanna focus on the way up. I wanna focus on the concentric being fast up. This is gonna be what trains more power. You're gonna be stronger on your stride. We're not controlling the way down super easily. We're making sure we're focused on an explosive squat pattern here. And then like I was explaining before, a push and a pull. We'll go through some rotations, taking care of the straight leg calf isos, and then your anterior tib raises and Copenhagen planks to take care of your hips at the end. In between, we have our easy run. I do want to say one thing: if you're not using strides at the end of your easy runs 1 to 3 times a week, these are a game changer for your pop off the ground, your running mechanics, game changer. The third day, this is going to be a hard day. This is where your quality run is going to live. Thursday, we're recovering from the quality run, absorbing that quality run. Friday, this is going to be another full body strength training session. This day for your leg strength training, I like to go a little bit lighter. And when I say lighter, this isn't going to be a heavy bilateral movement. This is when I'm going to focus on my single leg movement, which is going to transfer to running. So I like doing contralateral loaded split squats. So this is going to be with one dumbbell in your hand, and you're going to load these on the opposite side from the leg that's working. This is going to be really good for your hips, your glute med, and leads to a better stride, trust me. But after that, we're going to go a dumbbell row variation, a landmine shoulder press, med ball rotational slams, bent knee calf raises, tib raises, and finishing off with Cossack squats, which are going to help with hip mobility at the end. And lastly, your long run. This would be considered a hard session. This is just going to be depending on what your week looks like and what your weekends are stacked like. I like usually doing them on Sundays, but that's going to be more so up to you. Now, if you are training 1 time a day like this and you can manage 1 double training day, I would recommend adding another full body strength training day on your Wednesday if you're focused on strength a lot while you're running. This is when I would do the trap bar deadlift on that day. So that would be your 3rd to 4th leg movement of the week. That's where I would add it in. Now this gets a little bit more technical when we talk about moving into later in your prep. So whenever you're later in like the 8 to the 16 week mark, that's when we'll start taking away days. So I usually start out my prep with 3 full days, and as I go through, I'll usually take away one of these days and go more toward 2 days training toward the end of the prep. When I'm trying to really maintain or build muscle, my weekly sets will be somewhere between 10 and 14 sets a week per muscle group. And then when I'm looking to just maintain, usually right around 6 to 8 sets per week. And that's going to be usually when I'm down to the 2 days a week. So next I'm going to show you how to structure it if you are wanting to train twice a day. And this is more aligned with what I'm doing right now for my marathon. Now, if you are training 2 times a day, and for me, I'm training 2 times a day, usually 3 times a week. This isn't an everyday thing, but I kept the board the exact same, and I wanted to show you, I put in blue where I was adding the sessions in, okay? So it's the exact same structure as you saw before, but we're gonna for sure add a full body strength training session to our Wednesday quality work. And this is gonna be the trap bar deadlift focus day, like I was telling you before, focusing on the concentric. And then we'll add in the other movements like we always do. And then the easy runs, we're adding 2 extra easy runs in to get a little bit more aerobic mileage. We'll add an easy run in on Friday. This is in the AM before a full body strength training session in the PM. And then we're adding an easy run in on the other day, comparing to when we do our long run. So if I do my long run on Sunday, then I'm gonna add in an easy run on Saturday to get more miles in. And yes, there's no actual structured rest day in this schedule. And for me, that usually ends up being the easy run that I do on Saturday before my long run. And I'm taking this run extremely easy. Like zone 1 recovery. I am not pressing the miles whatsoever in this run. That way I can really recover this day and crush my long run. And if you really do want a rest day, you can take away this easy run on the weekend and then throw in a full-on rest day on the weekend for yourself. But that is essentially the breakdown of how I train legs in my workouts and how I spread it out throughout the week. I've shown you how I progress them through sets and reps over the course of a 16-week period from the guide that I popped on the screen, and I'll throw it up here again if you didn't get to see it. If you took anything away from this video, I hope that you just understand that as long as you have a structure to your training and you're understanding when you're going hard and when you're pulling back, that is going to be the biggest game changer. Usually people that live in the gray area of going kind of hard all the time, which I've done a million times, is when you plateau and you actually don't make progress. Pick the days you're going hard, understand why you're going hard and when you are, and that's when everything will make the most sense. If you're interested in getting something like this done for you, like customized to your life, to your goals, to your training, you can message me 11 on Instagram and we can talk more about one-on-one training and what that would look like for you and if it even makes sense. That's everything. That's how to train legs in marathon or half marathon prep. I hope that helps you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.